A picture is worth 1,000 words. You have probably heard that saying before, and when it comes to fashion illustrations, it is 100% true. Fashion illustrations and technical drawings describe how a garment will read when fabricated in different colors, textiles, and prints, and is intended to convey a mood. As you experiment and expand your drawing experiences, you will want to include more of yourself into your illustrations. This is when you start exploring and developing your personal drawing style and put your stamp on your fashion illustrations. Hello designers, I hope you are all doing well and that you are having a great day. You are probably wondering what our lesson quote is. Creativity takes courage. Today we are going to learn how to create digital fashion figures or illustrations, render these illustrations on garments successfully, add prints to our illustrations, add textures to our illustrations, and define and develop a range plan. Welcome to lesson 6 titled The Digital Designer. I hope you have all practiced a little bit because this lesson builds on the basics of Gravit we've learned in the previous lesson. So tell me, are you ready to create some digital fashion figures? Just a quick recap, fashion illustration is the art of conversing design ideas in a visual form. For the viewer to understand the design or the vision of the fashion designer, an analysis of the illustration often makes the contemplation better than with a word-by-word conversation. That is probably because a lot of us are quite visual. The purpose of a fashion illustration is to tell the story of the garment. Fashion illustration began in the 16th century when people became fascinated with dress and costumes. Books, journals, and plates containing figures wearing beautiful clothes likely found their way to tailors and dressmakers, serving to inspire new designs and fashion trends. In the 20th century, the business of drawing became a way to circulate the latest styles, and so the job of the fashion illustrator was born. With technological advancements, reproduction of fashion illustrations were placed onto the pages of all the top fashion magazines. That is until photographs replaced these illustrations. Photographs then took over the dictating role, where illustrations were meant to inspire the viewer. Today we have seen the revival and revitalization of fashion illustrations, especially with the emergence of computer programs such as Illustrator and Photoshop. A mixture between fine and commercial art, fashion illustration have been recognized as a significant genre in its own right, and they never fail to impress. Fashion illustrations originated with sketching and drawing and painting. All of the fashion drawing and illustration techniques used when creating sketches by hand can be digitally recreated using a variety of tools, layers, and brushes. The advantages of creating digital fashion illustrations include a cleaner and paperless process. It is also a cheaper process since there is no need to purchase a variety of drawing mediums because these tools are available on your computer. And it allows the designer to quickly and easily change, update, correct, and reproduce visual information. Imagine you are drawing and rendering a figure by hand and oops, you've made a mistake. The only option is to redo the illustration, unfortunately. With digital illustrations, though, you don't ever have to restart because the program allows you to tweak your illustration, so it saves you a bit of time. It is also easy to be stored. Instead of worrying about pieces of paper or it getting damaged, digital illustrations can be stored on your computer, on cloud storage, or on a flash drive. Sometimes it is also considered to be a more user-friendly process than traditional fashion illustrations because your computer can help you out a little bit. If you want to feel inspired, I suggest you follow some of these amazing digital fashion illustrators on social media. Right, let's look at some illustrators. Visby, Montana, and Lynn. Out of these 3 illustrators, which one is your favorite? Next, we have Jonathan, Debs, and Alex. All of these illustrators have added prints into their designs or illustrations. Do you like it? Do you think that you'd like to add prints to your illustrations? And then we have Lauren, Tracy, and Veronica. When looking at these artists' work, do you like the more realistic illustrations like Lauren's? Something less realistic like Tracy's illustration? Or do you like something more artistic like Veronica's illustration? I am so curious to find out who your favorite fashion illustrator is, so please share your answer with Morpheus and your classmates. If you do not have an illustrator, it is time for you to find one to be a source of inspiration for you guys. Happy illustrator hunting! As you can tell, all of these illustrators we've just looked at still have their own style, even though they create these illustrations digitally. Do not lose your touch or your personal drawing style when drawing. All of your illustrations, whether they are physical or digital, should still show your personality. It is important to note that, just like your design style, your drawing techniques will always be your own, but they will evolve over time when you expose yourself to new ideas and techniques. Even if an illustration is not technically sound, if the illustration still conveys a certain mood and vision, then it is a successful illustration. When I say not technically sound, I'm referring to little mistakes like when the proportion is a bit off, or the shading doesn't really make sense, or there is a line that shouldn't be there. All of these can actually create emotion and reflect your design and drawing style. So try to stay away from being too perfect. Allow your illustrations to evolve and tell the story of your designs. So let's look at how we can turn our hand-drawn figures into amazing digital illustrations. Okay guys, as you can see, we are back in Gravit. I have a nice clean blank page waiting for me to create my digital fashion figures on. As you can see, I have quite a few pages here. You don't have to worry about that right now. Although your collection that you have created has 3 looks or 3 outfits. So you'll have 3 figures, and I've created a page for every figure, and you can do the same. So I am going to start drawing my figure now, and it is probably a little bit overwhelming and you will be a bit confused, but don't worry, if you practice a bit, you will get the hang of it quickly. So to draw your figure, you can do it 2 ways. You can either import a little figure, your walking croquis, and then draw your outfit or your designs on here. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can draw your fashion figure by hand and then scan it or take a photo of it and import that into Gravit. So let's see, let's do that one. And then you can just copy this. It's not the best image or quality, but you can kind of see what's going on. And that's all we need. We just need a basic outline. I like doing it like this because sometimes your hand, when you're drawing on paper, works a little bit faster and the lines are a bit more smooth than if you are going to draw it from scratch on the computer on this figure. So that's my personal opinion. I like doing it this way. You can experiment with both ways. I would recommend you do that to see which one works the best for you. But I'm not going to use this croquis template right now. I did, however, use it to draw my hand-drawn image, as you can see. So I'm going to delete this. Delete, and I am going to place this image. I am going to lock it so that when I draw, it won't be able to move. And then I'm going to zoom in and start drawing. Now, the important and also the difficult part about drawing these fashion figures is that ideally we would like to render it on the computer. To be able to do that using Gravit or Illustrator, we need to create fillable shapes. If a shape is open, so let's use our pen tool. Let's draw a little shape. We can't really color it in, right? There will be a little bit of a gap there. I mean, you can color it in, but if there's another shape over here, let's do that. And let's color that one in like that. Then, you know, you're kind of losing your outlines. So we need to create closed shapes that are fillable. That means that there will be a lot of layers going on here. And for you to really know what you are doing, you need to label all of your layers and also organize them. So let's start drawing using our pen tool, and we can zoom in a bit. And I'm going to start with this panel first. So I'm going to start at the center front. I'm going to work my way. As you can see, I'm going to follow my line. You guys already know how to do this. I hope you practiced a little bit. Did you? Did you find it quite fun? I hope so. So as you can see, this is why I like doing it on a already hand-drawn image, because it's quite easy to follow your lines. There we go. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to close this shape. Note that little circle popping up next to the pen tool. That indicates that the shape is closed. So I'm going to close it, and that's one shape done. Now I can do exactly the same to the next side, but first I am going to click on my layer and rename this to top left. Okay, and I can lock it. And now I'm going to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to start at the middle. Whoop. Going to create my little bodice. Have a little bit of a curve in there. Perfect. And close that shape. And I'm going to call this my top right. Now I'm going to create that part. So I can either go on that line, follow the same line over here, or I can create a shape underneath this one that you won't see. And sometimes I find it to be a little bit easier than following the same line over and over again. So I'm going to click on my center point or wherever I want to start. I'm going to click over there and over there. This part will be hidden underneath these layers, so you won't see it. I'm going to move my screen a little bit, and let's see if we can create that nice curve. No, I'm going to make it do it in 2 steps. So 1, 2, that's a bit better. And then I'm going to meet in the middle again. Done. And that's my 3rd shape. So this one we can call middle left. And now see what happens when we lock this one and we unlock the top one and we move this layer on top of the middle left one. Now that part disappears, as you can see. Oh, where is it? That little red line disappears. You can't see it because it's underneath the top left panel. So we are going to do the same to the other side. Let's do this one in like steps too. Step 1, step 2, and meet in the middle. Perfect. Rename this. Middle right. We can lock this one, unlock this one, and bring it to the top. Again, you can also use, let's just show you as an example, bring it to front and send to back. You can also use those tools. And then we have our bottom of our dress left to do. And I am going to start in the middle again. I am going to click over there, find my point. Now this is again a little bit of a difficult one. We need to play with our pen tool to create these shapes, but you know, it's nice to follow the hand drawing, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You can kind of play with it. And it seems to be working out quite well. And create that little curve. Just zoom out a little bit. Put in my little curve at the bottom. I'm going to just click over there, and that's my next shape. Let's call this one my bottom of dress. And I'm going to lock it. Actually, I'm not going to lock it. I'm going to drag it to the bottom. And there we go. We have our outline of our dress. It's as easy as that. You might notice that we are missing some details. Let's quickly hide this, like those movement lines, but we can add that in when we add the shadows, so we can do that a little bit later. If you want to add it in with your pen tool, you are more than welcome to. Again, it's all about your design style and your drawing style. That also needs to be reflected in your digital drawings. Talking about your own personal drawing style, I prefer my images, the body, to be just an outline and not colored in, so that the clothes really stand out. So the only thing that will be colored in on my image will be the clothing. You don't have to do that if you want to color your face in or add facial features, add hair, all of that. You have to create fillable shapes like we have done over here for every feature. I like mine to be very simple. I don't add features or any of that. So I'll show you how to do that. Just so that you know. Now that you know how to create fillable shapes, let's play around with some simple lines too. So I'm going to start with my face. Ooh. So all I'm going to do is just trace my face. Doesn't really have to be that perfect. Oh. Give it some character like that. And I'm going to add some hair. Let's give her some volume. It's a nice little side bang. Perfect. And let's add another one in here. Perfect. Now, if you zoom in, first you'll see that these don't match up. Do you guys remember what to use? We can just go to our sub-select tool and click on our anchor point and bring it up. But these edges or points are quite sharp and I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my features that I've already drawn and I'm going to go to my border section and I'm going to click on the advanced stroke settings like we do when we want to add a stitching line. But then I'm going to, instead of playing around with the dash and gap section, I'm going to go to ends and click on the round end. There are different ones you can play around with, but I like the round end. And automatically it gives a nice finished effect. So now I can go back and I can play around with it a little bit to make it cleaner. Perfect. Now I'm going to draw in because I'm not going to color this in. I don't necessarily need to draw a whole shape like this. Right? Because if we want to color it in, this is how you would do it. You'll see now. There we go. The little circle next to my pen tool. Boom. Now we have a shape that we can fill. But I don't necessarily want to do that. I just want to create a line drawing. So I am going to zoom in and just draw in my neckline. Like that. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, like that. And again, I'm going to select both and make sure that they are round points. And again, I can quickly go back, sub-select, and make sure that that's a bit of a neater line. So I'm going to do this for my arms and my legs. I'm going to speed up the video a little bit just so that you can see what I'm doing, but I don't have to necessarily talk you through it because you guys are good. You know what you're doing. You know what's going on. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so now I've drawn all of my body parts. I'm going to select all of it, go to my advanced strokes, make sure that the ends are round, and then I can go back and edit it if I need to. Like over here, I'd like to edit it a bit. Let's move that one a little bit closer. And this one a little bit more in, like that. And these seem to be fine. This one I can move in a little bit. And this one. Okay, so now I have my little figure. And that is it. Now I can select all of my body part layers, I can group them, and I can rename my group and say that is my body. Because it's so simple, I quite like to add little blushy cheeks. So I am going to select my shape tool. I'm going to hold down Shift to make sure that it's a perfect circle. I'm going to draw a little circle and move it onto my little figure. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Place it on one cheek. I'm going to copy and paste it. Move it to the other side. And then I'm going to fill it. Let's make it a nice pink cheek. And this one can be the same. So I'm going to use my eyedropper and select the same color. I don't want to have a border, so we don't need one. And I'm also going to select both of these, group them, and call it my cheeks. And lock the layer. So that's quite cute. Now I can hide my drawing, my hand drawing, and there you have your little digital figure. Let's pretend you have created the outline of your fashion figure or illustration. Now is the time to play with color to really bring your illustration to life. We have learned quite a few rendering techniques already in the previous modules, but let's do a quick recap. Rendering is the way by which you can convey information about the fabric and color choices that help make your outfit unique. So, what is the difference between rendering by hand and rendering on the computer? No matter how amazing you are when it comes to drawing and rendering fashion figures, the computer will always win due to accuracy and the variety of tools. You also have more opportunities to evolve your style when rendering on the computer. There is a higher level of accuracy, especially when it comes to textiles and prints. Computer rendering also gives you the opportunity to experiment with different ideas without the need of redrawing the same illustration a couple of times, so in that sense it is also not as time consuming. At the end of the day, hand drawing and computer rendering are both very important. Even though computer rendering might have the upper hand, you still have to understand the basic hand rendering techniques like shading to be able to apply to your digital illustrations. The final step in the process of digitizing your illustrations is to add colors, prints, texture, and perhaps a bit of shading. We do this by filling all of the shapes we have created when we drew our illustrations, and these shapes all become fillable areas. Each fillable area can be filled with a different color, a different print, or texture. Let's quickly look at how we can add color to our illustrations. Coloring in your figure is just as easy as filling all of your shapes because you've created these fillable shapes, right? So, first thing I always like to do is I'd like to add my mood board's color palette. So I'm going to place that next to my figure, drop it down and lock it. And now I can start coloring in all of these different shapes. So let's start with the bottom of the dress. I'm going to unlock the layer so that I can fill it, otherwise I can't do anything with it. And let's say I want that to be pink and choose the pink color. When you click on your shape that you've colored in and you go into your colorful section drop down, you will see there are quite a few things that you can do. Swatches are unfortunately if you have the pro membership, but you can go to in use and these are all of the colors that you have been using lately, or you can go to mixer and then you'll see different shades and tones and tints of the color you are using. You already know what all of those things mean after our Color Me Impressed lesson. So let's say I am going to select the shape and I want to create an outline, or a better looking outline, because this black one can be quite harsh. I'm gonna go to my color. I'm going to create this outline, but I'm going to choose a shade darker. So this one would be a good shade. I'm gonna just do this shade. And there you have your one layer or fillable shape already filled in. I'm going to lock it, and I'm going to do the same with all of my other shapes. And there you have it. You have your little colored in fashion illustration. Now that we know how to add color, let's add some prints. So let's say you want to add a print. What do? We can go and unlock, let's say we're doing the two top halves. We want to add a print there. I'm going to select both, so I'm going to hold shift down and select the other layer as well. I'm going to go into my color fill. I'm going to click on the drop down and go to texture fill, and then you can always choose an image. So let's say I'm going to choose this pink animal print fabric. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to make it smaller. Here you can play around with it, and I am going to click on both again, click on my borders, and I'm going to choose this darker color. And there you have your little pattern instead of just a plain color. So that's really easy. Let's say we're going to do the bottom dress. We click on the bottom dress, we go to the color fill, drop down, texture fill, choose an image. Let's choose this yellow polka dot one, open it and make it smaller. Okay. Adding texture to an illustration is easy, and it also gives great dimension. So let's quickly look at how to add some texture. So let's say you want to add a texture. Then what you need to do is you need to select the shape. So I'm going to use the bottom dress for this example. And instead of changing it over here, we already like the color. We just want to add some texture. I'm going to add a fill. So I'm going to click on the plus and it will add something else for me, another color. I'm going to click on the color fill. I'm going to click on texture fill like we've done with the pattern. But instead of choosing one of these colorful patterns, I'm going to use a synthetic white fabric texture. You'll see what it looks like now. So it kind of resembles weaving. And I'm going to make it small. And then I'm going to click on it again and I'm going to change the opacity over here. So let's make it 10. No. Let's use our subselect tool and I'm going to change it, make it 10. So now you can see it will have the color and it will have a texture. So it kind of gives a little bit more dimension to your garment, right? Okay. So that is how you add some prints and some textures and play around with the different layers over here. If you want to take away the texture, you can always click on it and then just delete it. You can also try and do this way of creating texture. You add a fill, you go to color fill, and then you go to noise. This will give it a more of a granular texture. And again, you can click on it and change the opacity. And that's also a cool way to add texture. So you can play around with that. So that again is click on your shape, add a fill, go to color fill drop down, And then you'll either go texture fill, noise fill, and you can change the intensity over there, or you can change it over here. Again, if you want to get rid of your fills, you can just delete it over here. So let's delete all of that. Okay, right. Let's look at some basic shading techniques. I took away the print and the texture for now, just to show you how to add basic shading so that you don't get too confused. I think sticking with these basic colors would be good for now. If you do want to play around with prints and texture, please feel free. It's the same steps, you just have a different color or fill on the inside of your shapes. So first of all, I am noticing that my body is over my dress. So what I'm going to do now is just unlock my body part and move it down and then lock it again. That looks so much better already. So to create shading, you have to kind of follow these lines, right, that you already have, because the shading needs to be inside of your shapes. To be able to add shading, you also need to create these fillable closed shapes. So let's start over here. So let's start with this top half. You will notice that underneath your breasts, you will have some shading over here, and maybe on the shoulder line. It really doesn't have to make sense, but some shading will make the image look way more impressive. So what we do is we will choose our pen tool and we will just start drawing in your shading and then follow that line. I like to do my shading all in one go. So I'm going to do this side as well. Some nice shading. And close my shape again. So that will be nice. And then I'm not going to add a lot of shading on the sides. I am, however, going to add shading over here. So let's do that. The shading will come from here. I'm going to go all the way around, following that line. I'm going to go up over here. I'm going to go down and meet up. And meet up over there. So that's one. Now I want to do the other side. Let's zoom in a little bit. Again, I'm going to take it a bit out and move up again. And meet at my starting point. So these will be my shaded areas. So what I can do is I can select and hold shift down, select both of these because they will probably be the same color. I can zoom in a bit and I can take my fill again or eyedropper and choose the color I want, and I can go a shade darker. Instead of changing the color of my border, I am going to hide my border, so take it away. I just find that it gives a bit of a nicer effect and you don't have to worry too much about being in line, right? Same with the bottom. I'm going to, okay, let's first select these two and I'm going to group it and I'm going to call it my top shading and I'm going to lock it. Now I'm going to select both of my skirt or the bottom of my dress layers. I'm going to use my eyedrop tool. I'm going to select the color I want, click on the color fill and choose a darker shade. And then I am going to click on both of them again and hide my border. This was so easy and so quick to do, and look at what a big difference it makes. It just really makes it look more realistic and beautiful and professional. So I'm going to choose both these layers. I'm going to group it. I'm going to call it my dress shading. I'm going to lock it. And there you have it. That is how you draw or create a fashion figure with basic shading. You can add prints, you can add textures, you can play with it, you can color in the body if you want to, you can add facial features. Remember to just all make it fillable shapes, and then you can really create something incredible. Now I want to create my final lineup, right? First, unlock all of my layers. Unlock them all, unlock them all. Then I'm going to use my sub-select and select all of them. I'm going to change the border of all of my lines just so that they're a bit nicer. But now I have to go back and hide all of these again. But that's okay. That does not take too long. Perfect. And now I'm going to select all of it again. I'm going to group it and I'm going to copy it. And here I already have a final lineup board, and I've already drawn 2 other figures. So I'm going to unlock this board. I'm going to go visit it. And I'm going to paste my new figure in. So let's see. Let's make them all the same size. And this is my little final lineup that I've created for you guys. Before we move on and look at how we can present these illustrations, let me tell you about our next lesson. It is all about drawing up your basic block. Now, a basic block for a fashion designer is everything but basic. It is the first step of making your dreams come to life. A basic block is kind of the parent pattern from which the designer drafts other garments. If you have a good basic block, the possibilities are endless. Lesson 7 is all about creating your own basic pattern making blocks, so I suggest you get some paper, a ruler, measuring tape and a sharp pencil ready, because we are going to make some magic in the next lesson. We have been talking a little bit about a range plan in the creating a collection lesson, but let's quickly look at it again and how you can use Gravit to help you create an amazing professional range plan. To present your collection in a professional format, like a booklet, journal, or PDF document, is important if you actually want to manufacture the collection. This will include a lot of valuable information such as what your collection is about, potential buyers, and technical information about each garment in your collection. Buyers and manufacturers will look at this to determine whether or not they want to buy into your brand or manufacture your collection. It is the document you use to sell yourself, your collection, and your brand. Generally, your final collection presentation should include the following: a cover page with the name of your collection on it. Your collection name can be derived from your concept or theme, and you can also add the season and the date. Then you need a short description of your collection explaining your vision, your target market. So here you can include your buyer persona information alongside a short description of who the person is who will wear the garment. And then you need to add your mood board. You can also create a color board and a textile board showing the different types of fabric and prints you plan on using throughout your collection. You can combine your color and textile storyboards if you want to. Then you need to add your final lineup of your collection. Creating a final lineup allows you to build a range of designs and outfits that really work in harmony together, held together by silhouette, design details, and a common color palette and textiles. Then you need to add your technical sheets. This usually includes your fashion figures, the technical drawings of the garment, and if you want to, you can add the colors and textiles you are planning to use too. What you need to keep in mind when creating the final presentation of your collection is the orientation of your pages. You need to decide whether you want to create a landscape or portrait portfolio. This will influence your layout and composition of the different sections. Remember, consistency is key when creating a professional presentation. When thinking of creating a range plan, you first have to decide which format is most comfortable and suited to your style. Range plans can be physical, meaning they are created by hand, or it can be digital. I firmly believe that digital is the way to go, seeing as you can express yourself as well or even better with the help of a computer. It is also more convenient and looks more professional. Digital presentations are also the most accepted in the industry. If you want to create a mixed mediums range plan, you can always import hand drawings into your working document on the computer. Lucky for you, all that you have to include in your range plan can be created on Gravit. I have created a simple, quick example for you on Gravit of a range plan, so let's quickly take a look at it just so that you kind of understand what needs to go into it. So your cover page should have your collection name on it, and this can be derived from your concept. It should have the season, is it spring, summer, autumn, winter, autumn, whatever. You can decide on that, and then you can also add the year. And then you go into your description page. Now this is where you explain your collection to the viewer. So this one says that this collection draws inspiration from different lines and the relationship between the different lines. In a captivating play on contrast, the collection consists of strong modern separates celebrating geometry, juxtaposed by the soft pastel split complementary color palette. So you can see I've added a lot of things in here. I've added where my inspiration is coming from. I added what kind of silhouettes I'm using. I spoke about the elements and the principles of design with geometry and the juxtaposition and types of lines. And then I've also shared my color palette. So it's short and sweet, but it's really impactful and it tells the viewer a lot about the collection already, right? And then I'm going to go into my buyer persona. You can add a picture here like the template that we've discussed in our previous lessons, or you can do a little write-up. So mine says that she is confident and she's not afraid to stand out, and she believes in buying quality basics and also mixing and matching these basics to create really interesting outfits. Her style is minimal, yet striking with a touch of edge and a sprinkle of bohemian. She is a professional, she's independent and expressive, she is free and lined up, and that is what my collection is called. So I'm saying that free and lined up is designed for this woman. So this kind of gives you an idea of who the person is that might want to buy my clothes. Next is my mood board. So here you can see where my lines and the elements of design and principles come in. There's some soft lines over here, more organic lines mixed with the more geometric lines over here. You can see that it is going to be quite a feminine range, but with strong lines, and you can clearly see that my color palette will be soft yellows, pinks and blues. This is also a good example of a split complementary color palette. I also added my color and textile story, and I've decided to combine it into one. So you can see I will use all of these colors, and I'm going to use cotton stretch, chiffon and silks in my collection. Again, if you want to create or add these little textures, you can just draw your shape, go to fills, go to texture fill, choose your image, let's say that one, and then you can make it smaller. Okay, so that is how you fill a shape with a certain texture. Right, so I've added that, and then I drew my figures. We've gone through one figure together, but these ones I drew beforehand. And then you saw me creating the final lineup of it. And then last but not least, my technical sheets. And this you need to do for each outfit. I didn't do it for all of them, but I did it for this one. So I have 3 different garments. I have my little bottoms, my bikini bottoms. I have a skirt and I have a polo neck. So I had to draw this in a technical drawing format. So you can see I have my stitch details, all of that. I have front and back for all of these pieces. Beautiful. There's a double stitch line because it's probably a stretch. And then I've also added the texture and the color for each of these. So that's also important. So when you look at this, you'll see, okay, this will be out of that fabric in that color. Oh, I can see it has a double stitching over there. It has a center back seam. So the pattern makers and the people who will construct the garment will have a nice idea of what they have to do. And that is how you present your final collection. Obviously, you will have technical sheets for all of these. What do you think? Do you like my collection? I'm not so sure about this outfit, to be honest. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I feel like the yellow is a bit too much. But as you can see, now I can look at my final lineup and I can say that I don't really think this belongs with these 2 looks. And instead of redrawing it by hand, I can just quickly go back to my figure, this one, and I can unlock the shirt and I can change the color. So that already looks way better, in my opinion. I don't like the yellow that much. And that is how you create digital fashion figures. I am so excited to see what you guys create. And I'm sure with a little bit of practice every now and then, you will really start to enjoy the program and become very confident digital designers. Creating sketches or fashion illustrations are more than just creating something beautiful to look at. Fashion illustrations help us and every other generation comprehend, study, dissect, and appreciate what humans wore and idealized during a certain period of time. It is a way for us as fashion designers to tell our story. Even though going digital is inevitable and a requirement for fashion designers, it is important for the viewer to recognize your drawing and design style. I know these 2 digital lessons were packed with information and demos, and it can be quite overwhelming, especially if you have never created digital illustrations. To be honest, I really struggled at first and made a lot of mistakes. But through the mistakes, I learned a lot of new things and I pushed myself until I felt more comfortable creating drawings on the computer than by hand. It really is quite a transformative journey and I really hope that you are eager to start your own digital journey, designers. It is totally worth it. Your challenge for this lesson is quite a big one. I want you to present your collection including all of the different elements or sections, and that includes the cover, collection description, buyer persona, inspiration boards, so that is your mood, color, and textile boards, your final lineup, and your technical sheets. You can use the collection you have designed in the previous lesson, or you can create a new one, as long as there are 3 different looks. Please remember to tag Shaw Academy and use the hashtag ShawFashionCAD. I hope you have lots of fun being digital designers. Before you run away, please remember to complete your lesson assignment. These lesson assignments don't count for marks, but they really help you prepare for your final module assignment, which is around the corner. And that is it, guys. You are done with lesson 6 of module 3. Thank you so much for attending the classes and participating in all of the lesson challenges. I look forward to having all of you back in my virtual classroom for lesson 7, Designer's Block. In the beginning of the lesson, our quote said creativity takes courage, right? It takes courage to make mistakes and to start a new blank page. It takes courage to learn something new. It takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone. And it takes courage to spend time figuring things out. But once you are in the groove, you will love creating digital works of art. The question is, do you have the courage to become a digital designer? As always, until next time, stay fashionable, designers.